Avy Kaufman, you're the Emmy-nominated casting director for Ripley, which is based on the character created by Patricia Highsmith. First off, were you familiar with her novels or the previous adaptations before undertaking the series?
Yes, yes. And how clever of Steve to extend it to the magical place he did, in my opinion.
And what's it like casting a project that's been adapted before? So, it's already had actors in these roles. Like, do you look at those previous films for inspiration, or do you, want to make sure you go in your own unique direction?
The way Steve presented it, the way he wrote it, the way he set it up, the way he outlined everything gave me and probably all the other creatives behind a different approach, a different look at it. My respect for him and what he does is so huge that I knew it wasn't going to be a remake of a remake of a remake.
And yeah, I thought the series had the feel of kind of a classic film noir, with the black and white definitely contributing to that. Did you have films that you watched as reference points?
No, no, no. And also he took us into a totally different world, like really I did not know I never know what it's going to look like, but he used Italy as the backdrop of a really, really sort of sexy and scary at times a backdrop. It felt like a brand new picture to me. I knew what was happening and I didn't know what was happening.
And did shooting in black and white have any effect on your approach, like what you were looking for in the actors, their look, how they would appear on camera?
No, but I have to say, when I was presenting Steve with actors, and I've worked with Steve before, and I knew it wasn't going to be simple. I knew he wasn't going to, the first 10, I knew it wasn't going to be the first 10 I presented, and I knew I had to keep, digging and digging. And I got so excited by certain actors. And then when Steve said yes, it just it kind of fell in place after fretting, for months.
So what's it like when you and Steve finally settle on that one actor, that perfect choice? Like is that like that moment of revelation really satisfying?
I say thank you. I get off the phone out of Zoom and I scream. There were certain actors, I had got a thing for a lot of actors. And when he said yes, it just I was overjoyed. I couldn't wait to see how he was going to use them.
Now, Andrew Scott plays the title character. What did you think of him in that role? What do you think he brought to that role that made it so effective?
Everything it needed to be. Kinda. Yes. He's so smart. And it just I'm so proud of it. I felt like, it's either it works or it doesn't work. It worked. It all worked for me. The pacing, the shots, it was an exciting way of watching a show in these day and age. I feel like we watch the same thing over and over again. This was not that. I
And
thought Andrew did a superb job.
Johnny Flynn's interpretation of Dickie Greenleaf is unique from the one that I'm most familiar with, at least the Jude Law and Talented Mr. Ripley performance. What was your approach to that character?
Let it be Johnny Flynn. I just knew Johnny would do something real. These actors aren't looking to surprise you or to, they get into the part and you go with it. You believe them. I believed it. I didn't want him to die, but I knew he was going to, and I knew how, but I loved it. I thought it was great.
And alongside him, you got Dakota Fanning, who plays Marge, and earned an Emmy nomination of her own. How did you bring her on board the series?
just, presenting Steve with choices. We had just worked with her on The Alienist and other things that I've worked with her on. And I didn't know, as a casting director, we're not the ultimate decision. With some directors, some we are, So when Steve said yes, I was thrilled because I just knew how to play it with Andrew and Johnny. She's another one of our smart actresses.
And another really compelling casting choice in the series, I think, is Elliot Sumner
I
as Freddie
know.
Miles. Certainly just magnetic on screen. What made you think that they were especially right for that role, and the kind of different layers that they brought to it?
Because, one way to tell a story, there isn't one way to tell a story, And so Elliot read, and it was electrifying. It was just a really exciting way to go. I think he did another superb job. I don't have like secrets about what they said and why it worked, but more that they understood the character with Steve, and I felt like everyone was having fun. I felt like everybody was in this like crazy world of what's going to happen next, and everybody got into it.
And the series was shot in Italy and includes a lot of Italian talent, of course. How was the experience working there compared to maybe other locales you've worked, other circumstances you've been in?
Well, I'm part of a international casting group, and I had worked with Francesco before, and I had asked Francesco if he would come along. And every time they would send me the readings, to send to Steve, it was fun. Like, oh God, what is his name? Is it Maurizio, the inspector? I mean, these guys were just a trip, and I thought it was just casting European actors or non-American actors. Johnny's not American, and a lot of people weren't American, but it really took a step towards the Italians. Besides having the accent, which is so fun.
During the casting process, were there any surprises? Someone who brought something to a role that you weren't expecting, but that you found exciting and made you want to kind of go in that direction?
I mean, Elliot's a good example of that. He really is. He's a totally different way to go for that role. And
Yeah.
Steve picked up on it. Yeah.
In general, being a casting director, like when you're watching movies and television, do you always have like an eye out for talent that you might want to work with in the future, or like, oh, maybe I've got a project maybe that person is right for, or like is that kind of always going in your head when you're kind of watching something, even when you're not like working?
Yep. 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 Like, I don't have a pen and paper with me all the time or my phone next to me all the time, but I find myself watching someone do something and I get really excited, and then I send the reel to the director or whomever, and I see that they don't see what I see. And I'm trying to figure out how to do that, because, it's not always the reel doesn't always suggest what I think they can do.
And you won your multiple Emmy winner. You won two of those for Succession, which set records for acting nominations at the Emmys. As a casting director, and of course Ripley has nominations for Andrew Scott and Dakota Fanning. Is it especially satisfying when your casts get recognition? Like, you really kind of hit it out of the park with finding the right people for the right roles.
I worked on another show for HBO, Mayor of Easttown, and a bunch of, Evan Peters and Julia, and they got recognized, and I just, it's a simple happiness. Awards shouldn't make you happy because not everybody wins and they're all good, but you're happy for these actors when they win. Very happy. They work hard.
And how did you enter into casting as a career, as a part of, the filmmaking process?
Oh my God, how much time do we have? I will say I climbed the ladder. I climbed a very tall ladder. I never worked, I wanted to, but I didn't work with a casting person. So I climbed a long ladder and I've done extras, I've done location casting, I really have started from the bottom up. So those who have hired me, I'm very appreciative.
And what sort of made you interested in it, in that part of the filmmaking
Well, I came
process?
to New York. I had wanted to be a ballerina, and I came to New York to study dance, and I went to the Joffrey, and I remember calling my father, going, "You're right, you're right. I'm not going to be a ballerina." But it's taken me 100 years to trust my gut, and I think being on stage at a young age and getting the feeling of what people can do and how they can express themselves was always something that was sort of magnificent in my mind, larger than life in my mind.
Now, in addition to the work you've done for TV, you've also done a lot of casting for film. Is it a very different experience? The process of working on one versus the other.
I mean, TV's pretty new for me. TV's the last couple of years. I was never asked to do television. I think the main difference is really the teams you work with. I've been incredibly fortunate to work with the teams and directors I've worked with, but every experience is so different. Every experience is so different. Everybody works so differently.
Among the recognition you've received in your career, was a BAFTA film nomination for casting, King Richard. Yeah, I think the Oscars should have an award for casting. There's always talk about like what
Oh, they
because
will. Now they
I
will.
I hope
But
so.
I know, but awards are so, sorry to interrupt, awards are so, you either feel good or bad. Or some people just go, "You're nominated, you should feel good." But so many people should be, and they're not. And it's a tricky thing for me. It's a tricky thing.
Like if you win for Ripley, do you have like do you prepare a speech, or do you sort of just kind of
You know, the only time I've ever prepared a speech is when I did not win. Um, I don't, I don't know. There's a few people to thank.
and would it mean something in particular for if you were recognized for Ripley, the work you did on this project?
It would be, it would be lovely. I worked with Steve on something, a piece called The Night Of, which was really important and not easy for anybody. And we were not recognized. I hope I hope everyone's recognized. I thought it was a superb show.
And having worked with Steven Zalian multiple times, what is it about that collaboration that kind of brought you back for this one? Made you want to work with him again?
Well, there's so much respect for Steve, and sometimes we can do this, and then I have to go, is he going to call again? Um, but God, I've known him for a decade. I've known him for a very long time, and that always warms your heart when people want to work with you again.
And does that, sort of help with the process? Like, having like, do you develop a kind of shorthand with a person, or it helps, you know what they're looking for faster than you might otherwise with someone you're working with for the first time?
It's it's uh it's always new, but it's always I I kind of know the way he works, so it helps. You want to satisfy, whomever we're working with, we want to make them feel good and happy. And So you're trying to make a lot of flowers bloom. You're trying to make a lot of smiles happen, you know. I wanted Steve to have a cast that he was very excited to work with.
Well, I want to congratulate you on bringing together the cast that you did in Ripley and getting the Emmy nomination for it. And thank you so much for talking with me about it. It's been a pleasure.
You have been a pleasure. Thank you.